Welcome to What If We Can Change It All, the podcast.
A podcast created by Movement.medicine.
My name is Shadisa.
And my name is Janina.
We believe that we have the power and therefore we can change it all.
This podcast is all about reclaiming your power.
Welcome. We are back and today we're here with Bea and we met Bea 3 years ago? 3 years ago, I think. In an online women's circle, which was amazing. We got to know her, we got to know her heart, and I guess the heart will be a topic we'll be talking about today. But I will give the word to the lovely Bea so you can introduce yourself a bit more and share who you are.
Thanks for having me. So yeah, indeed, I met Janine and Cherise 3 years ago through a women's circle because I was searching for sisterhood. In the midst of a pandemic, I wanted to get inspired by other women and get a bit outside of my world. I work at corporate and I was aiming for a bit more spirituality and connection beyond that. And I guess I found exactly what I was looking for because since then we've been on and off inspiring each other very much. If you know Janine and Cherise, they work with dance, they work with healing, they work with energies. And for me, I work with numbers, I work with Excel sheets, I work with people, goals, and KPIs every single week. So bringing this to sites for me was like, wow, it's such nurturing energy. And I knew that I could bring that also to the space that I work. Because don't get me wrong, like numbers turn me on intellectually and in many other ways. But still, I think you cannot have one without the other. So yeah, my name is Bea, as Cherise mentioned. I'm from Barcelona, born and raised, and moved to Amsterdam 5 years ago. Have been here in the lowlands since then, feeling very nurtured, not by the sun or the food, but, you know, the people. That's me today.
Thank you for sharing that. Shall we dive deep in just let's go. So why did you move to the Netherlands?
So I studied business. I went to a business school and I was super sure I wanted to move away from Barcelona because I wanted to experiment something different. And I was very, very clear, I want to work at Nike. You know, some people have like, I want to be a football player. I want to be an actress, a model. I wanted to work at Nike. I loved their ads. I love what they brought to me. I love the sport mentality, and I love business. So I was like, this sounds like a perfect match. And after trying a few times, after a couple of years, I got the internship, and that's what brought me to the Netherlands initially. Landed the job, and then since then, I've been moving what some people would say the corporate ladder, depending how you look at it. And it's just like, yeah, you start as an intern, you get a full-time job, that's what you wanted. Moving into a manager role, having a team, which for me is like probably one of the best parts of this job right now. And in the meantime, I discovered that Amsterdam nurtured me in a very beautiful way. It was a bit more inwards than my life in Barcelona. The people that I met were way more diverse, different backgrounds, different stories, different profiles, and different visions of the future. So yeah, that's what brought me, that's what kept me in the Netherlands.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk. Yes. Okay, and so next question. So we know you're managing, and I think we can say you're managing a bit differently than maybe most managers. Well, this is a bit too harsh to say because I don't know them. But like you're managing from maybe a different space or from your own space. Let's say it like that. And so, what are you bringing to the table that I think makes you unique?
I can give you my answer. If you ask to my team, they would probably give you a different one. I'm going to start with my team. They would be like, she's crazy. She makes us meditate when she sees us that we're doing weird. And she generally asks, how are you feeling at the beginning of every meeting? From my side, I think those are just actions that I try to bring myself fully and with an open heart to the workplace. It's not easy. It's not always like you come in like, here's my heart open for everyone. Just be kind and joyful and connect and collaborate. But I just feel like at the end of the day, you work with the people, like the people that you are at work, you spend so much time with. that if you kind of close yourself up, half of the day you're basically with a closed heart. And I had an experience when I joined the company. It was pretty difficult for me. I was working with a manager that had a very different approach to what I foresee as management. And I kind of made this inner promise to myself. I was like, whenever I'm a manager, I will make sure I genuinely care about the people that are working with me, that I bring the human side to the table. What do you bring? I think is the humanity. I bring vulnerability, openness, and also I love talking about emotions at work. Some people will be like, yeah, you just have to separate both, but I think you can never start a project with passion if that person had a horrible sleep, if that person is going through shitload of personal stuff. You need to meet people where they are and not expect everyone to come to the table with the same mindset that you are that day.
Love that. I love that you also, I don't know if it's a word, but in my head it sounds very pretty, but like that you allow the thank you, the humanness to be there, right? And that people can just show up as they are, but also like have that understanding from someone. Like, I never worked in a corporate world, but how I imagine it is there's always like, well, it's like in every system, right? There's kind of a hierarchy, right? But also for the people that are in that hierarchy to feel okay, but like that person is actually seeing me, it's actually like allowing me to feel, and also like meeting me at my point and working together on it, right? I think that is something that's really, really, really beautiful to bring to that world. Yes.
And I think I have the blessing that I have a boss that is also like that. You know, like it would be very difficult for me to be in a situation that I'm like staying with an open heart, keeping the safe space for my team. It's still challenging. Like being all this like open-hearted doesn't mean that you're a chill boss. Like sometimes it means that you're gonna sit someone down and be like, you need to do this right now. And that's that, because that's the honest conversation that has to happen in that moment. But it would be very difficult if my boss wasn't a woman that keeps her heart open and she genuinely cares about the human side of people.
I love that you said that, because I think there's also this misunderstanding about, so you're in your heart center, so everything is love and light and you just accept everything, right? And being in your heart center indeed also means like, okay, but now we need to get real and we need to get shit done. It's okay, but we need to talk about it and see how we can make it work. And I think that's the side that we forget mostly, and we just go into like another way of like, I don't know, hiding and not and not wanting to go there, and then making all these like excuses in other directions, and then it's becoming a mess actually. So I love that you said that that's still like that you're direct and in your heart, right? Yeah.
It's not either or. I think that's also the message, is like being connected to your heart and having a heart-centered leadership, if that's how you want to call it. Also means that you're sitting people down sometimes and you're like, I'm gonna have a tough conversation with you. And jokes aside, you leave your house and you're like, okay, there's this tough conversation. You know, you're like mentally prepared. It's not like super easy. So that's also something that is like, yeah, if you're heart-centered and because when I hear podcasts, I'm always like, oh, they have everything figured out. Look at them having tough conversations and being kind and smart, and then apparently being a good leader. But deep down, you also leave your house and you're like, okay, you've got this today. You're gonna sit someone down, and it's not easy, but you just like get mentally and physically ready for it.
I love that. And I think that is something that will stay like for the rest of your life, right? At a certain point, it gets easier to speak your mind, to have those hard or uncomfortable conversations. But there's also a reason that we call them hard or uncomfortable, right? They are also there to let us grow more. Yeah, so I think it's beautiful. And like you already talked a bit about that you make them meditate and then you're asking how they feel. What else do you do?
People are gonna be like, I want to work for this person. I'm like, I told you, ask my team first before you make a decision. It's not always so kind. But yeah, what else do I do? I would start with myself, because even though something is egocentric, like that's what's needed many times. What I do within myself, it's like every day I dance a bit, even if it's for a song. I shake it a bit, even if it's just in the morning. I wake up and I hug myself. as a like, you've got this. And then I also invest quite some money in people that help me, in healers, in therapists, in trainers, sport. So I work a lot with my body because I know that that's what keeps me grounded. With all that said, I would bring to the space. We bring, I think the most weird things, or like weird in this context, would be starting a meeting with like 30 people and be like, okay, now you all look very tense, so just shake it, okay? And they're like, so that helps. Meditation helps. So anything that you would think that you would do as a self-practice, imagine that in a team environment. And it doesn't have to be an hour of it. It can be the first 5 minutes of a meeting. Be like, okay, shake, meditate, breathe, and give each person in the Zoom call a smile. Because at least, you just feel seen and you're just not one more person. And then a little project that I started together with Kaylee, a colleague of mine, is that we started this thing called the Sisterhood Sessions. Within the company, it came out as this really a longing, a desire to be in the company of women. And talking to other women in our department, we're like, there's so much knowledge in here. There's so much knowledge like held in each of us that we just want to make the space for us to share and start from that place. So in that kind of sisterhood sessions, what we brought is talking about the cycles. How can you integrate the cycles with your daily work, your routine? How can you plan projects around it, conversations around it? We also did like this photo shoot session about embracing your inner goddess. And that basically makes you see other colleagues or women in a space that is not always like, I'm coming here with an objective, I want to get something out of you. And when I get out of the meeting, there's a clear objective, what I want to get out. We just get there, it's like, there's nothing we need to do. There's nowhere you need to be. But just like, if you want to come for an hour and lay down in the floor while we talk, this is your place, And that's creating, I think it's creating this nurturing bond. Like, you just exchange looks at some point. You don't even need to talk. And after a month, you're like, I see you, sister. I know what you're going through, and it brings a lot of, for me, it brings a lot of joy to the workplace. Same thing for sure, I do other stuff, but right now, this is the top things that come to mind.
Yeah, I can totally imagine also like how important it is also to feel safe at work. And that's actually often something that we forget. But like, I find it very inspiring, like for you to find like these little tools that you're doing yourself, right? But also the ambition, but also the drive to actually bring them to the workspace. And also there are also people that are not into like meditating or not open for that, right? But also like just for let them experience it is actually already changing their mind, like, and it's actually already like they're just dipping the toes in the water, right? And in that way, it is getting more and more healthy.
100%. And I'm going to bring it to what we do with fashion is like, you would see this like super weird shoes in someone and you'd be like, so weird, I would never wear that. Wait to see the shoes 10 more times in 10 people that dress pretty cool. The 10th time you'll be like, I actually like those shoes, I would love to have them. And I feel like, dancing, shaking, breathing, meditating is not so far off from the effect that crazy shoes have when you see them for first time.
Definitely.
I can just plant a tiny seed. I know that it will be watered with time,
Yeah. It feels like you're almost building like community, right? And I know it's still work, but there's like this community based bubble. Trying to find the right word, but it feels like it's like these little waves that are coming and people feel more safe. And especially when you talk about like the sisterhood circles and stuff like that, it's really building a community within a building or within a company. And I think that's so important to indeed create a safety, to create a humanness, to create just allowing to be you, even though you're at work, right? Allowing your emotions to be there, allowing you in all states that you can be there, and that it's okay. And it doesn't mean that you always have to cry and be angry and la, but it can be there and it's okay. And I like that. I think it's something that's suppressed often. Yeah, and I think what I also really like about it is that, like you said, if someone had like is going through something or like didn't sleep well, like how can I expect them to be passionate about this project, right? And And like what we're very much used to do is to just suppress that and just keep on working and go into go, 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 go mood without actually going in what we're really feeling, right? And then at the end, the energy behind the project is never right because you are not feeling the same passion or the same drive that you were supposed to, or like, well, is sometimes needed to complete a project.
100%. And at the end of the day, that's, I mean, at least in my work, our goal is to complete the projects, to sell a season, to sell the product. So you have to, and I want to stress that, because it's not like, oh, it's this fluffy thing. It's like, no, we need to accomplish objectives. And I believe that if we constantly run on sprints, like project, next project, you're just like constantly sprinting, you're going to be exhausted. Like there's not many projects that you can do at that speed, you know, or like expecting everyone. And I acknowledge from people that I talk to, people I went to uni with, that they are working in industries that are really like that. And you're like, you do it for 3 years, you kind of express all the juices of your being. And then either you take a break, you burn out, or you find out after 3 years that you cannot continue like this. So yeah, maybe I'm also lucky enough to be in a space that I can be this person and be like, guys, maybe we need to do projects a bit differently, add reflection, you know.
Yeah. What I also like is that you said, like, I really invest a lot in myself, and especially in your body through healing sessions, through like physical, through movement, I believe. And I think especially when we are working a lot with the mind, which we all do a lot actually, it's so important to include the body, not only to ground, which is like a huge part, but also to let go of stuff so things can like alchemize and transform again. And we forget. But we forget that, like, if you have a stressful day at work, we actually store that somewhere in the body, and if you then don't move, then it's there and it will continue to be there the next day. And so we create like this little injury or this little uncomfortable parts in our body. So it's so important, I would say, for every job actually, to also move. And this can be really like movement, this can be yoga, this can be dance, this can be whatever movement you enjoy, right? And this can be also walking and breathing and being in nature and honoring your own cycle, which you also tapped in. So yeah, I wanted to honor that and highlight that a bit. Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Something that comes up when you say that is like, have you ever, a bit of a weird one, but have you ever seen a deer after they run away from like being preyed? The first thing that they do is like they start shaking like crazy, and that's their reaction to release like the fight or flight nervous system. And I'm like, sometimes I leave a meeting and I'm like, I feel like the deer while it's still running. And in those cases, it's also good to just like, I think I've said shake like 5 times in 10 minutes, but honestly, it's, as Cherie said, it stays in the body. It always does. Like the body, I think there's a book, the body keeps the count, the body remembers, it's going to stay there.
Yeah.
So do whatever you need to do to soothe yourself, because no one else will do it for you. And that's also something that's very, very clear.
Yeah, and I think what's also maybe good to say, like, maybe you're not in a place where it feels safe to do so. You can also go to the toilet, right? And have like a little 30 seconds on the toilet shaking yourself, or I don't know, whatever you need to do. So it doesn't always have to be like in the space. Just take your toilet break, or I don't know, have a walk outside. I don't know what's
I never do it in the office itself, because I mean there's always the looks, you know. It's like, what is this person doing? It was like you know, why? So yeah, of course, do it in a space that feels safe.
I also want to tap a bit into the cyclical living or cycle thinking, because you shared a bit around it. Maybe you can, for some people who maybe don't know, share a bit about what it is and how you incorporated it into your like work life also. That you're welcome.
All right. So cycle syncing for me was a concept that was introduced to me when I joined Nike, like as an intern, by Hannah Smith. bless her, really, she impacted me in ways that I still cannot describe, and I probably won't figure it out until the day that I die. But this is probably one of the best seeds that she ever planted in my mind. And when I was an intern, taking notes of everything, and one of the things she said, she's like, Bea, I always try to schedule my calendar and be conscious of my cycle. And I was like, your period, in my mind, I was like, I don't even think about 28 days. I was like, the 4 days that I'm bleeding, and that's it. And she was like, it's not just that. You go through, I was like, okay, not just that, noting down as an intern. And it's like, and then she was like, as a woman, if you menstruate, you go through 4 seasons every month, every 28 days. The period will be your winter. But then just after your period, and between your period and your ovulation, you get into spring. You move into your summer while you ovulate, and then you move into autumn for 14 days while you between ovulation and the period. And that also that changes your mind, that changes your body, your energy levels. And if you use it in your power, trust me that you will feel like you're surfing the wave every single time. I'm not sure if we have a bit of time, but I would love to do a quick, what does it look like in the workplace if you go through the whole wave?
Right.
And I'm going to focus it on a project. Okay, very specific project. So this one, everyone can bring it back to themselves. Let's say that you want to start a project. You're super eager and you're in your period. So you're like, okay, now maybe it's not the moment. At least for me, I know that's my moment to just reflect it, just sit with it, think about it, feel into what feels right in the project. Let's say a podcast. Then you're like, I want to do a podcast. Okay, just feel into it, think about it. Then you get into spring, when your period stops. And suddenly you're going to feel you have so many ideas, it's even overwhelming. And that's your superpower. It's like, write everything down. All your ideas, all your creative flows, all your juices. It feels like 1,000 hours that are shooting everywhere. And that's exactly what you want to capture. And don't get overwhelmed because you don't have a direction, just write down, brainstorm, get ideas, talk to other people, absorb, write, like a flourishing, just get everything. Then you move into your ovulation. And that's usually when you also feel like the sense of self that is a bit the strongest, like this inner power. You have this magnetic energy. That's also the moment that you're great at communicating. So let's say that you need to pitch for the project, or you need to have an interview, or you need to get conversations with someone, or have tough conversations. Usually it helps to do it during the ovulation. And that can be, pitch. I think pitching for it, getting money, because you're also magnetic. It's like everything on you is kind of attracted. When you move into your autumn, as a tree, you just let go. And this is the moment for projects that, while spring felt overwhelming with so many ideas, 2 weeks after in your autumn, that's the moment that you will be so clear about which ones are yes and which ones are no. Because in that moment, your intuition is kind of starting to become expanding in your cycle together with your hormones. And it's very, very easy. It's like, I'm not sure if you ever tidied up a home before you are on your period. It's like suddenly you're like, I want this, I don't want this. I want this, I don't want this. That's also literally what happens with projects. So all the arrows, it will help you select 2 or 3. Like, okay, this is the direction. I feel it, I know it. You go through winter and you kind of stop, rest, reflect, think about it. Is the cycle something that you wanted to? Is there any way that you maybe didn't optimize the cycle as you wanted to? Reflect on it, the same that you would do in a new moon. And then you take it all over again. And that can be applied pretty much to everything. So also administrative tasks, like going through emails, to-do list. In your autumn, your own point, you're just like, just want to get it out of the way. I'm on it. And that, again, is different for every woman. So I would encourage to all the people that menstruate, that's not only women. So anyone that menstruates and goes through these hormonal changes, explore yourself as if you were like a piece of art, as if you were the most incredible, curious being, and just try to track how are your thoughts, how is your energy, and how is your creative flows throughout the cycle. And you will feel that maybe it doesn't exactly mean what I'm doing, but you will see a very similar pattern that works for you. And I would encourage you to just bring it bring it to your workplace.
Yeah, I think it's, if you start with this, you can very much relate it to the seasons like that are literally there, right? So if you don't really, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as Bea described. I think it's a bit different for everyone, but there's like this common sense as well, right? If you look at the seasons, and so if you start applying that to your own body and then to your work, you actually will notice that you also will feel better, even in like not even like work life, but also in daily life. Then I am too busy in my autumn. I know my winter, my bleeds would be like, like
Literally.
too much. I can't handle it. And so when I already slowed down after my first 2 seasons, then actually my bleed is also a bit more calm actually. And one more thing I do want to say is we live in this society where 28 days is normal as a cycle. But this is actually not true. I think I don't want to throw numbers now, but I think it's somewhere between 24 and 30 something days.
Yeah,
so
it's 35%.
Yeah, so if you're not a 28 cycle person, that's okay. It's all different, so it's not, there's nothing wrong with you. I also want to highlight that.
Yeah.
So then also the seasons are a bit different, of course, but so that's all cool, and that's how it's supposed to be. And one last thing, sorry, I'm getting excited. If you're a man or you're like more in the masculine energy, you have your own cycle, which is mostly just 24 hours, but then you can still lift on the season that are there. So also, if you're listening to this and you're a man, you're like, oh my God, we're not talking about bleeding and periods. First of all, just embrace it because it's natural. It's part of being human. And we still have the seasons and you are still living on this earth, so you can still connect to the seasons and find your own way.
Yeah. I'm tempted to ask is like, do you use cycle syncing for your own work?
Yeah, we try to, but like we used to be like in sync and now we're like a week apart, but that's still perfectly fine. So I have my bleed and then she has her bleed. But we always try to incorporate it like in our programs and stuff, that we have like more rest there, or like do less teaching, or like we find it very, very important also because we are business partners and we work together, but our cycles are at this moment not really in sync. So it's like we have like some similarities, but also some overlaps there, right? So we know, okay, this week is my week, next week I will be in my spring. Okay, I will do a bit more then.
Yeah, but we use it definitely. It's I think I can say it's part of our lives anyways.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to it anymore. It just happens naturally now.
Yeah.
But when I first got to learn about it, I was like eye-opening to me because it was, but maybe that's for another episode.
We're just gonna jump into it like
no, but it is important. I think it's very important that we forget about it. We forget about cycles, like not even bleeding cycles, like we forget about cycles, but actually we humans live in cycles, so it's important to embrace them, I think.
Definitely.
I'm looking at the time.
Yeah.
So we're almost there already. We always end with the ultimate tip, or your ultimate tip for our listeners. Do you have fun?
I'm gonna bring it back home to how we started the conversation, and it's a sentence that I say everywhere because it's very dear to my heart. My grandpa sent it to me when I first moved out, and he sends, never deny a pleasure to your heart. Take the heart where your heart beats better or faster, whatever what resonates with you. And that's applicable for small decisions in your life, but even it's like, am I gonna eat aubergine or zucchini, you know? Just feel into it.
Yeah.
It's gonna take you places.
Love that.
That's like
it's like that's very
thank you for sharing that.
So
you always ask this
I always
question.
So I know a bit about like what you do and also about your passion project and stuff. So before I'm gonna ask how can people find you, maybe you wanna like give a short description about your passion project actually.
Sure. So I love writing. I love writing and reading. Writing especially has been something of a beautiful way for me to share with my grandpa, We always used to share letters, and he passed away at the end of 2022. And I wanted to keep that alive so much, like the excitement of receiving this like external wisdom. So I started sending newsletters to friends, family, and known people or not known people that are subscribing lately. It's a weekly or bi-weekly newsletter where I discuss specific topics. The last one was on summer bodies and the effect that beauty standards have on eating disorders and body dysmorphia. I usually link it to a letter from my grandpa. This time it was a letter that I sent him. But yeah, it's like this beautiful moment to just a little reflection, to receiving your mailbox, just chill and read a different point of view. Yeah, I would encourage anyone that is listening, actually, like we will share the link later on. That's probably the best way to reach me. I'm not very active on socials. Barely reply to WhatsApps of my mom if she doesn't call me. So I'm like, the best way to find me is probably through the newsletters. Is a way of staying in touch. Also, there you have my email address, so you can always reach out. If something of this talk resonated or someone wants to actually bring another point, I would love to hear. Like I said it, my ears, my eyes, my heart is open to receive, and also to receive other people's ways of maybe dealing with corporate or the way that you work, or if you have a team, how do you lead? I would love to hear. So yeah, email me and subscribe to my newsletters.
Just to add, Bea's newsletter are like really, I would say, little love letters for your soul. More beautiful because it's more beautiful than how you described it. Like, they're like little love letters to your soul, like describing, I think, topics that everyone has on their mind. So if you just love this conversation, please subscribe to our newsletter. You will love it, and your soul will thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Good for soul.
I guess that's it already. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for listening, and thank you for being here. We loved this conversation. We definitely have some topics we also actually need to talk about.
Yeah.
So soon more also about these topics.
You gave us a lot of inspiration.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you for listening, and we see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you
Fuck this world. Ciao, ciao.